Hey guys, Nexi here, back with another video. Today we're gonna do the review of the Xiaomi Notebook Pro. But first, let's do the unboxing. I ordered this Xiaomi Notebook Pro from GearBest and I received the package in around 8 days here in Sweden. Xiaomi Mi Notebook Pro is the latest 15.6-inch premium notebooks with 8th generation of Intel CPUs. Now this 8th generation is a big deal because it adds 4 cores compared to the 2 cores in the previous generation, and now they have 8 threads and that's up to 40% faster. Xiaomi Notebook Pro comes with a Core i5 or the Core i7 CPUs. Core i5 is with 8GB of DDR4 RAM and the Core i7 is with 8 or with 16GB of DDR4 RAM. RAM is not user upgradable, so you need to choose right version from the start. Regardless of the version you choose, they all have the same 256GB of SSD storage. Xiaomi Notebook Pro comes in a white package, similar like the MacBook Air. Package is very simple and inside the box you will find the notebook itself, quick start guide, 65-watt charging adapter which supports fast charging and USB Type-C cable. Now the Xiaomi Mi Notebook comes with a Windows 10 Home and with the Chinese language as only language, and it cannot be changed to English, so you need to upgrade the Windows 10 Home to the Pro version or reinstall the new copy from USB stick to be able to change to your native language. The Windows license will be preserved if you don't delete the system partition. If you do so, then you need to type the new Windows 10 license key. If you're not familiar with reinstalling the Windows 10, then this notebook is not for you. The body is made from aluminum and the weight of notebook is around 1.9 kilos. In hand feels nice and solid, and I really like this new deep grey color. It has a clean and simple design with no logo on the top. On the right side there is a full-size SD card port with 2 USB Type-C ports. The one close to the LED light is for the charging and the video output. These ports are not Thunderbolt 3.0, but consider this price range, I don't complain. On the left side there is a HDMI port with 2 USB 3.0 ports and 3.5mm jack. HDMI port is 1.4 version and it supports 4K only in 30Hz, so if you need 60Hz you have to use the Type-C port with adapter. On the back side of the notebook there is an intake cooling port with 2 infinite Harman Dolby audio speakers, which sounds very good. Screen hatch feels very nice and strong, firm, it holds the screen good in place. Screen reclines angle is very nice too, and you can easily open the notebook with one hand. It feels very well built. The screen itself is a 15.6-inch 1080p IPS laminated screen with a scratch-resistant Gorilla Glass over it. Picture is very nice, bright and sharp, the colors are beautiful and very accurate. RGB is more than 80% and the view angle is very good. I'm very pleased with the picture quality on this 1080p panel, and for the 15.6-inch screen, if you're not a graphic designer, you will be more than happy with it. The touchpad is big, precise and very responsive, and it uses the Windows gesture. With the 2 fingers you can swipe down and up, and with the 3 fingers you can go to the task view, switch between the apps and exit to desktop. In the right corner of the touchpad there is a fingerprint scanner, which is very fast and you can log in a Windows 10 in a blink of the second. It works every time. Keyboard has a backlight and it's a very nice design. Space between the keys are nice and roomy and it feels great typing on this keyboard. Keys are nice and quiet and they have around 1.4mm travel. They have a slight concurve on them, which adds more precision and better feel when you type something. Very nice touch by Xiaomi. On the top of the display there is a 1MP HD webcam with 2 microphones with status LED lights. And this is a test video sample of the 720p 30 frames per second camera, and as you can see the frame rate is pretty good, but the picture quality is not the best. On the other hand, audio quality is very good. And now let's take a look inside the Xiaomi Notebook Pro. There is a 9 T5 screws on the back cover and 1 screw is hidden under this rubber fit. On the back cover there is a dust filters which protect the fans from the dust. And now we see inside the Xiaomi Notebook Pro, and I really like what I see here. On the cooling system there is a metal plate heatsink in the middle of the board, connect with the 2 copper pipe fans, one for CPU and one for dedicated GPU. 60Wh battery is a sandwich between 2 infinite Harman Dolby audio speakers, which sounds great. SSD drive is a 256GB Samsung PM961 drive, and there is a slot so you can add more storage in the future as well. 60 Wh battery gives you around 7 to 8 hours of average use, full charging takes less than 2 hours, and it supports fast charging, so in 30 minutes it will charge battery up to 50%, which is very good. Now let's talk about the performance. With 8th generation of Intel CPU Core i7-8550U, which has now 4 cores and 8 threads, and boosts up to 4 GHz, this notebook is really fast, and with a 16GB of DDR4 RAM, everything on this notebook is so smooth and it can handle heavy multitasking without a glitch. Streaming 4K videos is without a sweat, Wi-Fi speeds are great and the range is very good. Overall, very fast and enjoyable experience I had with this notebook. It just works great. Now when it comes to synthetic benchmarks, I was getting very good scores on the CPU, but not as much as good on the GPU. Even that this notebook has a dedicated GPU, MX150 with a 2GB of RAM, it's more like entry-level GPU. And this notebook is not a gaming laptop. You can still play in some AAA titles like the GTI 5 and similar, but you need to put down the settings. Games like the Bioshock, Project Cars, Country Strike can work without a problem. With Intel Extreme software you can boost performance in this laptop, for example if you render videos or you need the extra boost time, or you playing games. Setting the higher TDP up to 44 watts, I was getting very good results in a game and the benchmarks. But you need to keep an eye on the temperature if you're going with the high clocks for long periods of time. Not that I'm crazy about overclocking, but someone may need it. For example, if you render some heavy 4K videos, or you need a few more FPS in a game. With the stock settings in a benchmark stress, under the full load, the surface temperature was not going over 47 degrees. Noise level under the stress test and under the full load was around 44 decibel. And average temperature on the CPU was 67 degrees. Now, before we go into games, I wanna point something here that I noticed when I was testing this notebook, and there is a drive speed. Now, these read and write speeds are pretty high, but this SSD drive is a Samsung 961, and this is the speed that we should get here. Now, I did the research about this and I found the Chinese Xiaomi forum, and it turns out with the BIOS update, full drive speed can be unlocked. And the newest Xiaomi Notebook Pro seems to have this issue fixed, so I'm not going to complain about these drive speeds. Now about the games. Even if this notebook doesn't have the high-end graphic cards, you can still play games. Of course not on the highest settings, but with a very decent FPS. This is a GTI 5 on 1080p with a stock clock speed on the CPU and GPU, and I'm getting around 36 up to 41 frames per second. I would say very playable and smooth. For example, here in this particular place I'm getting 36 on the stock clock speed, and this guy Simon is keep calling me. With the GPU overclock here, now we're getting 44 frames per second, and that's a very noticeable difference in the performance. But of course, if you're going with a high clock speed with long periods of time, you need to keep an eye on the temperature. On the Metro Last Light, for example, even on the stock clock speed, game is very playable, and even on the high quality settings I'm getting around 51 frames per second.
Oh, I don't have your gift. So hop along, rabbit.
On the very high settings I'm getting around 36 up to 44 frames per second. With a GPU overclock I'm getting 55 to 64 frames per second on the same place. Now this is with the high settings, and on the very high settings I'm getting 55 to 57 frames. So with the GPU overclock you can get up to 15 frames per second, and that's very good, knowing that you can boost performance when you need it. Again, keep an eye on temperature because they will go up depending on how high is your GPU overclock. And now, sound test. This is probably the best sound that I heard from notebook, crystal clear and very loud, and I hope that microphone pick it up. And now the battery testing. Streaming 4K video on the YouTube on Google Chrome with 50% brightness and 25% audio volume, battery lasts for 4 hours and 43 minutes. If you stream 1080p, it will last for 6 hours. On my daily usage, I was getting around 7 to 8 hours battery life. So what I think about this Xiaomi Notebook Pro? Well, when it comes to performance, build quality, battery life, sound, I think this is an excellent notebook. But I do have two complaints. First, the SD card reader on the notebook itself, it's only limited to around 29 megabytes per second, and that's a bit low, and I wish they have added the full speed there. And the second is the camera. I wish the camera is much better in a low light mode, but that's just something to keep in mind. Alright guys, that was my review of the Xiaomi Notebook Pro. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and if you wanna order this notebook, please have a look in the links in the video description. Until next time, take care and bye bye.